I'm John Consalvo. I'm here with Yaya Diamond. We're talking about my new single, Alone. Let's get it on.
Hey guys, I got John here. I got John. Hi John, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. I am telling you, I am so excited about your new single, and I look at you now, and what do I see? You are beautiful, and my spirit tends to bind us. What do I do? You turn my head, that much is true, even from afar. But I still don't know if I'm meant to love you. 'Cause I feel so alone. I feel so alone when I'm with you. I feel so alone. Oh, when I'm with you.
Certainly something folks can identify with, I think.
I do. Being alone with someone is not ideal, but that like speaks a lot. Tell me, did you write the song?
I did. I did. The song. I wrote the music, the lyrics, all of it. It's part of a larger story album that's coming out February 14th, called Voyage on Soulmate Seas, and we felt like this was the perfect lead single off the album.
Hmm.
And I think, like I said, the song itself is something that I think many can identify with. You have, uh, you had already mentioned it, right?
Hmm.
You could be in a relationship. You could be right next to somebody and be alone. You could be in a crowd of people and feel alone, right? And so it's when I put it together, I was, and that certainly is part of the story we're telling in the song and in the album. In this particular case, the individual is in a relationship, but alone, in that relationship, and not for anyone's fault or whatever. Just having that feeling of just being
Yeah.
alone. I feel so alone when I'm with you. I think I think if a lot of people examine their relationships, they might see that from time to time they have felt that way, if not all the time. And those
Mm.
are things that they just kind of keep to themselves, right? That's how we are. We don't really share that stuff. Everything's fine, fine, but sometimes that the real is there.
Yeah, yeah. I get you. Have you always written in a story format, and did you experience that?
The answer, I like to write in stories, so I have this is my third story album that we're putting out. So I like the idea of having songs that could stand alone as their own, but tell
Hmm.
a story in a song, and then the whole album together tells one story. I love doing that. I love to write, so I have novels and things like that. So just storytelling is just part of what I do. Um, have I gone through this? I think absolutely. When I wrote this initially, just that initial music that you hear in the beginning, I wrote that in I would say the early 2000s, and I started to finish it, last year when we were doing this album. But yeah, I certainly have experienced that. In several forms, whether it's just dealing with a person, whether it's in a crowd of people. I recall going to events and everyone's, happy and elated. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm totally isolated in this place.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I've experienced that in a couple of different ways.
Wow. And you say we. Who is we? It's you and who else?
Yeah, so I'm John Consalvo. I'm the artist. So Tyler Mays is my producer. He's phenomenal. He also plays bass and keyboards on the album, and just anything you could find. K Legot is our drummer, um, and and so we're a three piece in this song, and yeah, Tyler helps. I consult with Tyler when I make big decisions on the music because the guy's a genius.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. What is it like to be a recording artist in 2024, 2025? I mean, things have changed so much. What is it like for you? I mean, is this like your main gig, or is this just because you love it so much?
It's a great question. Yes, I love it so much. So we'll get that out of the way. I was just having this conversation with somebody recently in that in I guess if you went back in the day, you, you couldn't do a lot. You were either an artist or you were a writer or you were working a 9 to 5 or you were doing it. But now I think, as you know, with all that's available to us now, yeah, I am a songwriter. I am a recording artist, so I love that. That's my joy. I will never stop writing. Hopefully,
Mm.
I probably write like 50 songs a year.
Wow.
Um, at the same time, like I said, I'm working on my third novel. I love to write books. I have a full time gig that I just love being a part of,
Hmm.
uh, and I think in today's world, you can stay busy. You can do a lot of the things you love to do and build off of those passions. And I was just telling somebody the other day, you know, the the idea for me is to put out more content, right?
Hmm.
I already have like a lot of the next two albums already written, ready to go. So it's about putting out more content. So I think that's the main thing with, you're in the TikTok world and the Insta world and YouTube and social media in general, and you can get your stuff out so different than you could have, in the 90s or the 2000s, right? You don't have to rely on, a big circuit or big label to get out there between Spotify and Apple and Amazon Music and all that. There's just so much out there for an artist to explore.
Yeah, definitely. What about performing? Are you performing your originals yet?
So it's a good question. Because I'm so busy, I have not put together a slew of dates, but the expectation is that this year, spring and summer and fall, would like to put together really a nice slew of dates that we're working on right now, which would be really cool. What I'd love to do is a mixture of acoustic only shows and then maybe some with a full band. But this will be the year, and so I'm certainly excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. It's just it's in that slew of new music that's coming out, artists that's coming out. What I mean, I hate to ask this, and I don't know the answer to this either for myself. So I'm just asking you, is there something that you have found in yourself that separates you from the crowd?
I don't, it's always hard for me to comment on the crowd because I don't know the crowd, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's different. Um, it'll be cliche, but I think the more I tap into me, and you already talked about it a little bit, the more I tap into me, my experiences, or at least a message that I have that
Hmm.
I'm totally sold out for, the more I tap into things like that, um, the more I think that keeps me separate. I think, there's that, there's that saying, right, where we're souls with a body more than we're a body with a soul, right? And that makes
Right.
us unique. Everyone's unique. And so the more I tap into what makes me, tick,
Mhm.
the more I think authentic that comes out. The audience will always know, right? And you know
Right.
this when you can hear a good song.
Mhm.
You can listen to a good song. I liken it to, like, I think Billy Joel, for example, one of the great songwriters of all time. You can listen to the songs that he wrote in the 90s, and you listen to the songs when he was starving in the 70s. And when you hear those songs from the 70s, right, you're like, wow, there is like just depth to that. You can tell. Whereas in the 90s, he's already got his millions. He's
Mhm.
already, made it, right? So not saying they're not good songs, but they don't have that same feeling, right? And so,
Yeah.
um,
It's a
I
hunger.
yes,
It's a
and so I
hunger. It's like I really want to make it. I really want to do this, and it's like you putting your best foot forward, and after you've taken that first step, the second step isn't as good as the first. But sometimes it is. I mean, it all does depend. But I think people get kind of relaxed in their world that they don't, they put out stuff that they maybe didn't think was so good and people don't think is so good, but that's really maybe the first song that they really wanted to put out in the first place. So, I
yeah,
mean, but you never know. You just don't
yeah.
know. But yeah, that hunger, man, that hunger is like, it's intense.
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
like, yeah, like if you look at, like, even like going back to, like, the ancient days. Like you look at Psalms, right? When David's writing, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he's not thinking about royalties. He's not thinking about getting that on TV. He's not thinking about getting that on TikTok, right?
Mm-mm.
He's literally writing like, okay, my life is on the line here, right?
Yeah.
What's that line, that the Johnny Cash line, right? When Sam Phillips says, if you had one song to play and your life depended on it, and this was your last day on earth, what's that song? Because that's
Yeah.
the song that saves people. I want to keep that, right? If that makes sense, I want to make sure that when I'm writing, um, it's real to me, and it
Mhm.
may not be for everyone, but it's going to be for someone, and that's what's cool.
Right. And you're right. Oh my gosh, you are so right. I think that a lot of people do lose that fire, but you can really truly just continue to keep it by just putting out honest content, and making sure that you are still true to the way you started. Have you changed or advanced or become better in your writing and in your performances and your vocals since you began? And where are you today in comparison to when you began?
You know, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say I feel like I'm always advancing. I'm always getting better, with my guitar playing, with my songwriting, um, with my singing. Certainly, past few albums we've done a lot of harmonies, and as you know, that's a lot of work. And so I feel like that. But every now and then you run into someone that's like, oh man, I really love this song that you did on the first album way back when, and you're like, really, that song? That's the one, right? I did all this great stuff here, and that's the one.
Yeah.
The stuff
Yeah.
you do now is kind of cool, but I liked that one, and I appreciate that because um, yeah, that's what I think is really cool about music, right? On my first album, I have a line that says, I know each song will live forever, but will we be here to sing?" And I think it's kind of like that, right? I think it's not what I'm saying, it's what you think I'm saying. And depending on what you're going through in that moment, something I might have written, 15, 20 years ago that I might not think is as good as the stuff I'm doing now, that might be the thing that just hits you. And
Yeah.
so that I think I'm better. I think I'm a better vocalist. I'm certainly a better guitar player. I feel like I'm writing better songs, more complex parts, but sometimes I do go back. It's a
Mm.
good practice. I go back and I record everything I do, even like to my phone or whatever, um, to voicemails, and I'll just listen to old stuff that I wrote. And sometimes when I write, I feel like I'm writing something. I'm like, okay, people aren't ready for that, and then I'll go back and I'll listen and say, oh, I wrote that 10 years ago. I actually like that more now than I did then. Let me do something with that. And that's actually what we did with Alone. That's a great example.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So what's up with the future for you? Are you gonna, like, I know that you said this year is gonna be for, more live performances, acoustics, but what about music? What are you looking for in the future?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this song Alone is the lead single off of Voyage on Soulmate Seas. That comes out February 14th.
Hmm.
Actually, if folks, you can pre-order that right on the Here Now page that you're sending folks to. So, or if you
Right.
have Apple Music or whatever, folks can just pre-order that. If you pre-order, you actually get an additional song before anybody else gets it.
Hmm.
So there's that. There's like 13 tracks on that. Like I said, it's a cover-to-cover story album, which I'm really really excited about. Um, Later on this year, I plan to get back into the studio. We have something pretty exciting we're talking about, but something that I've wanted to do for a while is just really like a large scale like folk attack album of just real honest songs, and have a lot of that, coming out. So written down. So I'd like to actually, even though there's an album coming out in February, I'd like to work on getting something out before the end of the year,
Um,
if I can. So, uh, and then, like I said, I have enough content on paper to get it going. So between this year and next year, so I don't think there's going to be any shortage of music. Overall, all the stuff for the most part is original. There are a couple
uh-huh.
of covers that I've thought about, but
Hmm.
for now it's an original.
I like covers. I mean, it does get you known, but originals are where it's at. To me, it's like, okay, but isn't it amazing? Like, you can write an original and it'll be similar to other things, but no original is exactly the same. Not unless you've copied it. I mean, of course, but
Mhm.
no original. Everybody has something new to offer. What kind of advice do you give to those people that are coming out or want to come out and they're like, I don't know, I don't think I can do this.
Well, I think number one, get rid of that. That I don't think I could do this. It doesn't matter to me anyway. Like how I look at it is, it doesn't matter if you're, you know, if you're 12, if you're 15, you're 20, or you're 80, right?
Hmm.
If you have something, um, go after it, right? If you want to get into, if you have a gift for songwriting,
Hmm.
um, and some people are late bloomers, some people have been doing it since they were really young. Just do it, get it out there. Oh well, what if I get rejected? Who cares?
Yeah.
the the majority of people will reject you,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Um, Michael Jackson got rejected, right? Like, the majority of folks are going to reject you when you do this. But if you think about it, right? There's 7 billion people on the planet, or what have you. Like, if you just tapped into a half of a percentage of that, like, you get what I'm saying?
I
Like,
do.
you're
I definitely
not.
do.
It's not going to be for everybody, but I promise you, whatever you're going through, whatever you have to offer, it will be for somebody. And we're all just trying to find those somebodies that we could reach. So, um, whether it's any type of writing or creating or singing or whatever, somebody in your situation is going to make it work. Whether it's, you're starting really late in life and you're like, you know what, I'm 75. I can't just start writing now. And I'm like, look at George Martin.
Yeah.
Brother's putting out Game of Thrones left and right. Like,
Hmm.
somebody's going to make it work. Why can't it be you?
That's
Right.
right.
So, but the most sure way of not making it or not being a success or not being happy with what you got is doing nothing with it.
Exactly.
So,
I agree with you. Definitely agree with you. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It's just been such a delight having you. Your music is beautiful. I love it. I love the rough feel of your voice. I like that it's got kind of like that. Well, can I say it? It's kind of like that 80s rough voice feel, kind of like that Bruce Springsteen. And, you had like Aerosmith, and, it's kind of like meets 2025. So to me, I always go back to the really cool music like Earth, Wind, and Fire, and,
mm,
Stevie Wonder, and, all the old
my jam
people.
right
Oh
there.
my gosh. And it's like, okay, so when you're listening to that music and you bring like Whitney Houston to 2025, you can't go wrong. I don't think you can go wrong. I'm sorry. I think that's beautiful music. I think, Bruno Mars did it really good. He
Yes.
brought that flavor from back day and he made it new, but not so new that it's losing its flavor. Kind of like mix of the best of the 80s and 70s in today's music, which is, I love it. Absolutely love it. So I think
Yeah.
you've done that. I think you've done that mix. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you. You mentioned Bruno Mars. I will tell you that when I put his first single, I didn't know who he was, and I was like, "Wow, Sting and the Police got back together." Like you that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, I was like, "Wow, this is cool." And I'm looking up like the new Sting song. I'm like, "Okay, I'm not seeing this." And then somebody was like, "That's
That's
not Sting. That's Bruno Mars." And I was like, "No way." And he had brought in such that old like police
yeah.
sound, which was really really cool.
Really cool, really cool. I agree. And I think you've done that as well. I want to thank you again. And I want to thank
Thank
you
you.
guys so much, man. I tell you, go ahead and check out that song and you can go ahead and get the QR code, scan it, or you can go in the description box below and grab the link and definitely go there and check out that music. If you do want to pre-order, you can. And you can also get it before or after. It doesn't matter. You can listen to it. It still resonates and it still helps them out, that 0.00 whatever that is cents that they get per play. It'll be still good.
That's right. That's right.
I want to thank you guys so much. But most of all, it's going to show them that you care and you love their music. And that's what it's all about. It's all about doing something you love. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Have a great day.
We'll talk again soon when you put some new music out, huh?
I love it.
All
Absolutely.
right. All right. See you later.